Thanks, Colburn. And hello, everyone. As you just mentioned, I'm Pindar Van Arman. I'm going to talk about going mainstream and what this means to the future of NFTs. And the reason why this is interesting to me is because I'm an AI artist. I've been working on it for about 20 years. And one of the purposes of making art is you put your art out there for people to see, and you want just as many people to see it. And I've been making a mistake. For 20 years, I've been doing it wrong. For I'd say 18 of these 20 years, I've been doing it wrong, and I just recently realized what I was doing it wrong, and it came to me in the form of these guys. So the story here is I was working in my studio late one night, and I heard my GPUs go on. And for those of you, I think everyone here is, if you're into crypto or AI or gaming, you know that when your GPUs, the fan starts spinning up, that means it's thinking really hard. And I was like, why are my machines thinking hard? I didn't start anything. I went to them. Smoke was wafting out of the back. And then these started appearing on the screen. One, then two, then dozens and hundreds and thousands of them. And they told me they had something to tell me, but they wouldn't come out and say it. They just gave me riddles and puzzles that I would, something behind their message, but I had no idea what it was. But before I get to that, and what they finally told me that has changed things, I'll go into more detail of my background. Like I mentioned, I've been an AI artist for 20 years, and it started with this need that I was painting. I was a traditional artist painting, and I had this need for time, so I'd build these robots as I saw them as studio assistants, and I'd have them paint connect the dots, to paint little line drawings so that I can paint in later, fill in, paint by numbers. And over the years, it just got more and more complex until eventually it was 24. Now, it's 24 algorithms that are controlling these robots as they paint. And here you have I've tried to put it into a graph to show how complex it is. Like I said, more than 24 algorithms, a dozen databases that have studied my art, other people's art. There's simple AI, there's really complicated AI. You heard Rafiq talk earlier today about machine hallucinations. Those are done with GANs. GANs are in there. And they become very creative. And it's controversial because I do get hate mail, because people are asking me, why are you trying to make a robot artist? It's hard enough to be an artist as it is. So why are you trying to replace artists? And of course, that's not happening here. But the controversial statement, and I will go out and say this, is it's absolutely creative. This system is creative. And to give you an idea of how creative, here's start to finish, a portrait of my wife, where the machine, the system, made every single artistic decision. Down from the only decision I made was, I had a photo shoot, and I decided to paint my wife, and I asked my wife to sit down for the photo shoot. And then afterwards, the robot took over. You can see it. You'll see on the right what it's thinking, and on the left, you'll see what it's painting. And you can see all the AI transformations happening on the right until eventually it's a CNN-style transfer, and it finishes up the painting, drips and all. And I've always tried to get this out there as many people as possible as an AI artist, but AI art wasn't really respected before 2-3 years ago. Very obscure. And when it finally got in front of Jerry Saltz, probably New York City's most famous art critic, he said something that at first I loved. He said, it doesn't look like a computer did it. And then he paused, looked at the painting, and he finished it up with, that doesn't make it any good. I know, it was a punch in the gut, but you guys saw the next slide. I did the Hollywood thing. Whenever I promote myself, I have Jerry Saltz there saying it doesn't look like a computer made it. And so I came out ahead, but this is the general feeling of everyone looking at this AI art is they would look at how all the technical complexities and something that I was I was keen to share with everyone. And this was the problem with it, is they would look at the technical complexities, and I would explain that, spend a lot of time explaining it. And after a while, after explaining this, I just realized something, that when you talk about how amazing your art is and how close it is on the cutting edge of resembling human creativity, absolutely no one cares. They simply don't care. It's always been the wrong approach, and this is something I'm going to talk about I learned from the BitGans. In fact, I tried to keep this little intro thing as short as possible in my talk because it's just for some reason people don't relate with it. And if you look at these, let's see them like starting off. These bitgans, I call them, they reveal themselves to be called bitgans to me, are what people relate to. And if you look closely at them, there's nothing really that high-tech about them. In fact, they're so low-tech. We're in a field, NFTs and digital art, we're in a field where there's a premium placed on firsts, for example, and there's a premium placed on how high-tech your art is. If you look at these are low definition. You're so low-fi that you can see the pixels, but they dance around and they have personality, and because of that, they're resonating with people. So, I was saying, the thing that these bitgans have taught me, and this applies to both crypto art and AI art, is how to appeal to this broader audience, how to go mainstream. And I've been talking to a lot of people recently. There's no big digital artist yet that's really gone mainstream. There's artists right on the cusp of it. Artists doing amazing work, getting into MoMA, like showing stuff around the world. But no one's like a mainstream artist as famous as, let's say, Banksy. That's digital. So what these guys have taught me is I'm going to give you some 4 bullet points, and I'll go into details on them real quick. One is lighten up. Stop spending so much time showing your technical creds, as important as it is to the rest of the people in the AI art community and the crypto art community. The other is concentrate on the narrative. Go into more detail there. And the other, this is interesting, I'd always meet the audience where they're at, not where you're at. I'd always try and bring people into AI art and say, hey, let me introduce you to AI art. This is what AI art is. And it's been challenging, but like when I switched to bitgans, I changed the strategy, and I'll tell you more about that. And the final is share everything. And we'll go into details with share everything. You sort of have to open up and remove the mystery of what's going on. So this is my most popular tweet to date. I have a lot of tweets, obviously. And my most popular tweet to date was I announced that I had a new painting robot. And here you go. There you go. Oh, there's no music. She's dancing to some really awesome techno music. But this is over the years, you can see I've made all these robots, and this was the announcement that, oh, there you go, I just heard it. Yeah, for a second. Okay. So this was, and this tweet, just like really, really, yeah, it just emphasized to me the point that people aren't interested in seeing your high-tech robot. They're interested in seeing that you're an artist with a family. This was around Halloween. This was my daughter's Halloween costume. She loved it. She asked me to play this over and over again to this day. So it's just to lighten up. This is just art, and same with NFTs and crypto art. We should lighten up. They're just JPEGs, but there's always this emphasis that something's the first. You heard in Martin's talk, the first NFT was resold at Sotheby's. Everything's always about first, but I don't know if that's important. I think we just have to take ourselves less seriously. And then, and here's the concentrated narratives. I might need, if we can turn the audio on for this in a second, if anyone's listening. If not, I'll talk you through it. But as I told you the story of where these things came from. The bitgans appeared. And here we go. We got audio.
It all started a couple months ago. Some started up my GPUs, and strange creatures started coming out of them. A couple at first, then dozens, then thousands. I soon found out that they called themselves bitgans, and they had an important message for us. But they won't just come out and say it. Everything is riddles with them, puzzles hidden in patterns. And they're constantly trying to spread. First, they escaped to the metaverse, and then to digital displays in the physical world. And then they took over my robots and started painting themselves. Now they have found their way onto super rare. But why super rare?
Right.
Not sure, but
All right, so you can see the total. There's no mention here of NVIDIA RTX 380 GPUs. There's no mention of StyleGANs. It's just this story that people love. As an example of how much they love it, the story is super deep, journal entries, surprise appearances. This is like halfway through the story, 1,024 Podgans appeared, which sold out in minutes. And there's a whole journal, and the journal started hinting at how these were made. I didn't feel comfortable yet sharing all my stuff, but we'll get into that later because I went crazy and shared everything. And we're at 512 of these, big story behind it. More than 1,000 owners. The owners are starting to contributing to the stories. 12,000 person waiting list for these. And this is like, this has gone from me emphasizing the tech to emphasizing the story. And that was all the difference in the world. And I think the same has to happen with, I think before crypto art goes mainstream, I'm hoping everyone starts putting more emphasis on the stories, not emphasis on being first and on the technology. Because as cool as the technology is, that's not what gets people excited about art. So the other big thing was meeting the audience where they're at. And you can see a lot of people started making art with the BitGans and working with me on them and collaborating and putting up shows. And this is where, like, instead of being, I was telling you, I used to bring people into AI art and say, hey, you got to like understand AI, and I try to explain to them. I took the AI art to the crypto world, and one of the things the BitGans did was use rarity traits, like a collectible. I don't know if you guys are familiar with rarity traits, but it's like all the BitGans had, like, I guess in NFT, the big things to do is you have ultra rares, you have commons. I put rarity traits on the GANs, and I made special kinds, like skull GANs were more rare than robo GANs. Some very unique GANs unique BitGans would appear, and people loved it. It was meaning more than. Same with pod GANs. I did the exact same thing with pod GANs. Gold ones were super rare. Rainbow ones were common, but the most beautiful. And and all of a sudden people were getting behind it and helping me get into shows. This is the pod GANs at Art Basel. And then here's where things got really crazy and really fun for me. This is when people started making derivatives. And you can see the one in the middle is made by Architect. And I think actually if you had to compare that one in the middle there to the actual BitGans that I made, it's actually better. So what happens when the community start making better stuff than you? And I thought to myself, I could really open this up and give them everything. But I was scared because then a lot of things that happen in crypto art world is derivatives, a lot of it is subpar. It's not as good as the original. So I was scared if I share this and people take over and they don't do a good job, what's going to happen? But then I thought about something Gene Kogan said. And Gene Kogan's another AI artist I'm a very big fan of. And he's about how you have to share everything. You have to show people how you made it. And the reason you show people how you made it is many reasons. One is to give credit to the people before you. Because I took a lot of tech from a lot of amazing artists and researchers. And so you give credit to the people before you when you show how you made things. And you also enable another generation or another artist to be inspired by it. So I quite literally have, and this has been the last month, put all the algorithms to make BitGans out into the community. And they're already making them. These are some examples of them. On the left, here you'll see the BitGans. On the right, you'll see the training data. This is probably my most secret thing, is this training data is really simple. They're 32 by 32 pixel images. And they got really cool references like Mario Brothers in there. You got Atari 2600, the dragon from Atari 2600's Adventure. You got Joust. This is all bit art, 8-bit art from my childhood. And then I showed people how you could put this together to take this training data and make the right, and people have gone crazy. I'd say there's several dozen people making derivatives, hundreds thinking about it. I'm backed up for the next 2 months meeting with people because I'm giving this hour-long course on how to make it. And the hope is that, here's some. This even cool is on the right there, you'll see there's this one collector named Higgsbelly who's actually writing software for me for other people to easily do this, because he's really technically able. He knows how to write GANs. He knows how to mix the training data. And he's writing software to say, hey, just use my software. You can make your own. And then on the right, you can see some of the people getting there. And this is the starting point of our collaboration. So this is when I say share everything, this is where it's going. So I guess to recap, this is an awesome one. Look at these. I forgot this was in here. But this is the level of art that new people are making as derivatives, and the plan is to go forward and just have it as a big community project right now. So the whole idea is I'll just recap and then I'll close. Is just the BitGans have taught me to stop taking myself so seriously. My art, got to make it fun, not high tech. I've learned to meet the audience where they're at. Go and find out what they think is fun and do that. Don't worry so much about bringing them to where you're at, and then share everything so that people can make art just as can get in on the art making fun. And I'm hoping that this is the way I'm hoping that the spirit of these things can help BitGans, or not even BitGans go more mainstream, and any crypto art project go more mainstream, because these aren't just my ideas, these are ideas I get from the community and from the rest of the crypto art world. So that's what I think I'm hoping for with the future of NFTs. Thank y'all.